I'm terribly sorry. So there you go. Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, with having said that, Libre, Joelle, I wanna pull you in here and ask you. You know, when we're advocating for um, underserved communities and for the people in the land, um, what do you feel in your programming? You know, in your organization, how do you feel that um, you've, if you've altered your reach or your approach to your reach? Did that change programming for you? Did that change? And I understand that not long ago you became the director of your organization. As you know, a person of color, how did that affect the dynamic of your organization, and did that change for you? And do you plan, or do you have plans or an approach to follow up and extend that inclusivity within your space and you know, within your programming? Do you feel that that gives you a greater avenue for a greater reach in your work with the Nature Conservancy?
I do. I think with my new role as director, I'm able to really make things happen. I think being a person of color and especially growing up in the communities like East Chicago, like I bring that perspective. I know what it is to be part of that community, and so it has really allowed me to implement a lot of like my ideas um, and I completely understand that it takes patience because I am from those communities, right? And as an example, I organize the Monarch Festival there in East Chicago, and so it's something through the Nature Conservancy where we sort of blend a celebration in science for the monarch butterfly, right? We uplift kind of those voices, we uplift the culture, the Mexican culture around the monarch butterfly, and we really use that event to engage communities. I think before that event we would have community hikes to try to engage the community, and we would even make them bilingual, and we've had very little success with that. And of course, for some of the things that we have talked about already, and not our nature preserves not always being very inviting. um and so with something like the Monarch Fest, being able to take that approach of meeting the community where they're at, right? Not expecting them to kind of come up and show up to these hikes out of nowhere. Out of a sudden, we invite them and expect them to be there. Um, and meeting the communities there, they're having the festival there in Chicago, and being able to uplift them and celebrate with them, and at the same time expose them to what's available to them, what's accessible to them. Kind of with those stepping stones of engagements, a little bit at a time, and just being patient with it. And I'm happy to say that after like 3 years of engagements and in the communities, we just had another bilingual hike in September, and we're starting to see more people in the communities show up to these hikes. And again, it just really takes patience, and it's easy for early on sometimes when you start with programming and you don't see people show up, and it's easy to say, well, nobody's interested, like why are we continuing this? But we are interested. It's just never been accessible to us. It's new. It's gonna take some time for us to be comfortable. And so with me being director, I can make sure that those things continue, even if the numbers are not where they are or they're sustainable. To some people, oh, it's not worth it. It is totally worth it. And as director, I can make sure that those programs continue, because I know that it takes some time. And it's always a learning opportunity. Even for me, you always learn something new, always learn new inequities, and things that you can do better programming wise to make sure that you are being inclusive. And sometimes you just got to recognize some biases. And even me as a starting here in TNC, I realized early, well, I realize now, but early on, I wasn't really bringing in a lot of my perspective, a lot of my experience, because I was adapting to what the culture was there already. And being one of the only Latinos for the Nature Conservancy in Indiana, it's really pretty intimidating not having somebody to talk to and things like that. And being put in this role as director has really like empowered me, and also to help other people of color as they're coming into the organization, and being a mentor for them and understanding how they feel, because that's how I felt when I started here.
Thank you, Joel. And within that, in that part of the conversation, for all of us, I know I faced some challenges, over the course of the last 2 years, with being, kind of, I don't want to say forced, but kind of being that person now that everybody goes to get a sense of what it's about for us, or to get a sense of some of the challenges we face as leaders in the outdoor and environmental sector. I feel as though maybe sometimes I am responsible for enlightening others on, some of these issues, whereas, I think emotionally we are well versed in the experiences and the byproducts of incidents that arise out of the basis, of racism, or that are racially motivated in some fashion. So what are some of the challenges that you feel we face then and now, prior to the movement, and how can we move to make change within those challenges? How can we use our challenges, for instance, like the camping incident? It brought about an opportunity for conversation with some prominent roles, prominent people in roles at our local parks. We were able to take that opportunity and have some conversations, and those conversations are never easy and oftentimes uncomfortable, but I feel that having them as a tool and using them as an inviting way of sitting at a table collectively and discussing how it made me feel, how it made my participants at my event feel, or how did you feel when, as a leader in your, or director in your organization, that you're a part of this incident without having been there, or explain to me how it made you feel, and I'm able to explain, and so opening these conversations at the table, how do we get people to engage in and understand in the effects of not being so welcome in the outdoors, or having incidents where we feel we may not feel welcome, and how do we go about creating change to move past those and make progress in that area? How do we, as persons of color, how do we more or less convince our public that there needs to be change? And what types of change are we working for in the long term? What is it that we'd like our mission and purpose to continue to be as leaders in the outdoor sector, or as persons, leading groups and demographics of people to hear and listen and participate in our programming? So what message can we send about belonging? What and with the challenges that we face, how do we turn that into progress? When we face challenges, how do we use it as a tool for progress, in diversity and equity in the outdoors? Libre, you want to touch on that? I know, like, yesterday you had your food swap at the garden. Tell me about at Nichols Park, and I know Jenny, you're doing work in Hatcher Park. Now, these are two parks in Gary that have kind of been forgotten about, left to kind of grow back to their natural state is what the city calls it. So how is that challenging to get people involved in, like Joelle said, I go past the park, I look at it, or, being discouraged because you feel unheard, or being discouraged by looking at something from the grand scheme of things and thinking, I'm just one person, I can't do this. And then, but then having the courage to step out there, Libre, like you did, and say, no, this belongs to us, this is what we want, and how do we send this message, and how do we make this change? How are we seen? And among conflict, how do we move past it and use it as a tool to continue to be seen?
Well, as far as how do we come together, I have to preface, if you all hear a sound in my background, I have a janky refrigerator that I got off Craigslist, and it goes off and on at times, so it's going off. So I apologize. So as far as getting people together and getting people united and on the same page, it really goes to what Joel was talking about. We cannot expect to be at Beyonce level by like Christmas, where, we got the whole world on our page. It starts with one. And, you get out there, someone that's interested in the program, interested in what you're saying, they'll talk. And I have always felt that the best advertisement is word of mouth. So if people are for your cause and you are like genuine in your efforts and you are standing firm, you know that you're doing the right cause. So no matter politicians or business or whoever tries to get you off of that, stand firm, and the people, and you keep saying the message. Don't forget about the rejections. Don't take it personally. It's not personal. It's just business. They tired right now. They just want to watch Netflix, but they'll come along at some point when they see the momentum. So it's about knowing that you have to build momentum. And when you're at the ground level, it's always most difficult in the morning. It's always most difficult when things have not been, when there is no momentum. It's physics. So just know that, and as you keep going, the momentum will build as long as you stay aligned. That's it. You just have to be persistent and stay focused.
I agree, Libre. Like, I think that's the key there. I think for me, the challenge has been, at first, like I said, I'm from Chicago. So at first, a little bit of the barrier was like, well, you're not from Gary. So I had to take my time and get to know the people that were there. And even though I'm from a larger organization, it's not my job to press the goals of the organization on the people. So that's explicitly what I made sure I did not do or did not want to do. And over time, as I got to know people and got to know the city more, my work did become easier. I've gotten to know Block Club leaders and different community leaders and organizations. And every time I see them, they're like, hey, Jen, it's good to see you, and it feels good to know that we're familiar and that we can see this as a real partnership. So that's one way that it's made my life a lot easier. It makes my work very enjoyable. And at the end of the day, no matter what part of the city we're from or what part of the region we're from, we have the same goals in mind. So when we have come to the table with those same goals, I could say, hey, here at Audubon, this is what I have to contribute. Do you like this? And when they like it, I can move forward, and I can also uplift what they have to contribute as well. So that's where I'm coming from.
Can I comment on something that you said, Jennifer? I think it's super important. When we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's something that I always advocate when you're, sometimes organizations, groups, they sometimes it feels like, and I'll be honest, like organizations just want to check a box of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And to me, the key to reach truly diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that you said, Jenny, which is have conversations with those groups and hear them out, instead of thinking we have the answers, we know, what it is to bring in more diverse groups. It's actually talking to those communities, what does the community want? I'll go back to the Monarch Festival, knowing that the community there in East Chicago, the demographic is, mostly of Hispanic and descent, and, coming from background of the middle states of Mexico, like Michoacan, where they celebrate the monarch, right? Like, and it's not something that I'm making up. It's something that's in the community. You can drive into Chicago, you'll see monarchs painted, on buildings, painted in businesses and things like that. And we really have to start listening to these communities if we truly want to be inclusive, and not just pretend like we know what they want, what they need, or they want to experience nature the way that we want to experience it, as well. I just wanted to, you mentioned that, I just wanted to make sure that was said.
Well said, Joel. I absolutely agree. At our harvest share discussion yesterday in Nichols Park, there was someone in the community that she was teaching us the history of the park, and she was telling us of a time like what it used to be, what the community used to be, and asking her, how do we get that? And she was like, well, how do we get the people to care? And she said, you will not get the people to care. So I also think it's because people are reluctant to come to an event to talk about something, because not all communities, but a lot of marginalized communities think that there's talk and no action. So in order to get those voices, because I absolutely agree, like Living Green Garden, like I don't want it to be what I think your space should be. This is your space. I just want to empower you to do it. But to have those conversations, everyone's thinking nothing is going to happen. So to like empower communities, yes, it can happen. Whatever you want can happen. You can do it. Let's come talk about it. That's a strategy in itself to even get that initial conversation going, because I think our communities have been knocked down so much that now there may be at a state, and I would say in my love, Gary, that they don't care about us. There is no hope. So to push that hope into our communities, and what do you want? Let us do it together.
I just wanted to say quickly, you guys are absolutely right. And even with, so Hatcher Park did not come from Audubon. It did not come from me. It came from the community. And already Audubon and partners like TNC, like County Parks, Wetlands Initiative, and other science orgs came together to do a restoration project in Northwest Indiana. And it was to restore the wetland along the levee trail there. And the problem with the project was it was not accessible to the public. So it would have been a great project for the birds and for nature, of course. And that was a problem. That's something I saw. And so over time, as I was talking to the community, and we noticed all of these different parks that were next to the levee and next to the project, and just from having conversations with the community, they were saying like, hey, there's this park. And just from seeing it, you can see that, well, we have the expertise, we have the know-how, and got some of the money, we can make something happen here. So making an investment into the land that's accessible for people and making the land more accessible for people, that gives hope. And also that helps people feel like that part of the land is for them. So it's not just, you're over here and you don't come to this spot. It's really, this is your space too. This is yours to enjoy as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny, Joel, and Ray. So here we are. What do you feel? I know we wanted to touch on a few other issues as we probably got around 10 minutes left, and I wanted to open up questions from the panel. But let's, open up questions from the audience. I wanted to touch on, you have people listening today. How do you get more people involved in, our mission in diversifying, the outdoors, and how do we get people to support us? How do we get other organizations to support us? And why are those partnerships important? And how do we get other people involved? Not just persons of color, but, people who want to support us. How do we do that?
That's an excellent question. So my philosophy, or the way I flow, is if I put it out there, the organizations that are aligned with my cause will join me. I'm not for trying to convince an organization to join with me. If you don't feel what I'm doing, then you're okay, God bless. So, and that's exactly what's happened. So I don't believe we have to convince. I just believe that we have to put it out there to let it be known. And those organizations and as organizations, actually, so maybe I probably will start doing this. And I believe social media, especially, I believe in the power of social media for good. So if for ground level community work, like door to door, I think flyers are better, but for like organizations and for other people, external supporters that can come to you, I do believe social media is a way. And point them to your efforts and make sure to document your efforts. Don't think it's bragging. It's not. It's just making awareness. You make awareness to it. You put it out there. So when you talk about it, when you ask organizations for it, they can check you out. If they're aligned, they'll mess with you. If they're not, then it's fine. So I don't think we spend our energy trying to convince them.
I feel that. I feel that extensively, Libre, because I've, I think in the last 2 years with Brown Faces, Green Spaces, grace of God, I've had to do any please or, see me. I mean, it's amazing, what has transpired for our organizations these last 2 years, and we've a way to go. And so, I'm grateful for the exposure and the opportunities and the calls and emails and, but, and also as representatives of our demographic and our work, we also have to be careful, not to get too far into a partnership that's not, connecting or not, I've noticed I've had to be very selective with my work, not exclusive, but just selective. And so looking for ways to engage all persons, in our activities, but make the focus on, making sure we're reaching the demographics that we intend to reach and pursuing the goal of expanding and increasing the numbers, at the Dunes National Parks. For instance, we probably increased visitorship quite a bit these last 2 years, especially this past summer, where persons of color only represented 8% of visitors at the Indiana Dunes National Park. 2% of those visitors were only 2% were Blacks, and so we have to increase those numbers. And in bringing these programs in Dunes National Parks, Kim Swift and Kip Walton, very eager to, partner and do programming and very welcoming and sharing our message and doing it together. It's been an amazing partnership. Shirley Hines Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy, Audubon Great Lakes, all of the organizations that have the same mission and purpose, we are greater together. I've noticed that we are greater together. And to create those partnerships and relationships where we're reaching not only our audience with our work, but we're able to allow others to see that as well, Libre. And as mentioned, they'll see it, they'll want to be part of it or not. But, nonetheless, we continue. And I think it's been a great 2 years, and we would love to keep that kind of momentum, which means that we have to
We lost your audio, Kimmie.
Oh, I think I'm losing. So let's okay. Let's turn it over, Laura, or Leslie. I'm sorry, Leslie. If there are any questions from the audience, should we take those now?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we've got a minute, so, and I have a couple people here in the room who have questions, so I'll relay them back to you if you can't hear them. So
Absolutely.
yeah, you can come right over here. Want to do that? If anybody wants to come up and ask their own question, that's fine.
Hi. Hi, I'm excited to be
Hi,
here. My name's Patty.
hi, thank you for. Hi, Patty.
Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm white, and I hiked the Appalachian Trail about 18 years ago. I met about 300 people on the trail. I did the whole thing. I only saw one Black man. And I asked him, why am I not seeing any Black people out here? I don't remember what he answered, but can you guys tell me why?
For starters, I could say for myself, and I would love to turn this over to Jenny and Joelle and Libre as well. For myself, okay, I grew up a Girl Scout. I went to Girl Scout camps. Me and my sister were the only people of color. Most, commonly we go for 2 weeks of summer. I can't say for myself how I, as a person growing up in an urban community on the west side of Gary, my mom introduced that to me. I think if we had more opportunities to be introduced to the outdoors and have accessibility to green spaces, because, as Joelle and Jennifer spoke about, access to our green spaces is up to us. We have to create maintenance and ways to make these accessible for us, and fight the city to help us, get parks. And so we're not, generationally, 400 years of working in the outdoors, having trauma in the outdoors. I would gather that has a great deal to do with why culturally we are not so much, it's not that we're not interested. I think there's a base fear of maybe we don't belong. I've always thought that I did, only because nature belongs to everybody, and I used to explore as a 7-year-old out in the woods. It's in me. I think nature is in everybody. Everybody wants to have that moment. Like, even when I say outdoors, I don't necessarily mean let's go take a hike in the woods. You can experience outdoors. Like the other night, it was raining, and it was such a beautiful rain. It was soft, and it was still a touch warm outside. I went in my backyard, and I stood in that rain, in the raincoat, and I absorbed it. I let myself feel it. That's what the outdoors is. It is all around us, but typically growing up, I see, on a skiing magazine, the average picture of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, very, regal Caucasian man. You never see, Black women, Hispanic men, or even plus-size people. Why is it always the same demographic? I think it's the narrative that is commonly and generationally put out there that, there's a lack of belonging, and we have to create and means and ways to move through those barriers and be present. But I'd like to move this to the panel and get their.
I'm gonna turn the camera back to the room. So go ahead.
So I really think, like Kimmie said, and what's been discussed in this panel, is the exposure to it. So we're not fair because we've never been introduced to it. So that's why it's so important, like Brown Faces, Green Spaces, and the conservatory, and these different things, and for us to reach out to the community to expose them to it. So like, it would be great for like local communities around the Appalachia to actually sponsor trips for kids, or for the community sponsor trips to go for the exposure. We're not there because we don't know to be there.
What a bummer. Can I ask a couple more questions?
Sure.
Are you looking for support of white people in your outdoor organizations? And which mean, what I mean is, what do you want white people to do? Do you want us to be, would you like me to be a member of Brown Faces, Green Faces? Am I allowed to be as a white person in your club?
Absolutely. We're open to everyone. What I'd like you to do is go to the Facebook page, Brown Faces, Green Spaces. It's on Facebook. Go to our picture albums. Our activities and programs are absolutely open and welcoming to all demographics, north, south, east to west, no matter the color, height, weight, planet you're from. We're inclusive, and that's the message that we want to send, is that we are all inclusive. And though our goal is to get more representation in the outdoors of Black and Brown people, we want to have experiences the way that they're organically supposed to be. Like when I go to kayaking with my son with a different organization, I want to feel included. I want to see everybody there. I don't want to just see, a sprinkle of this and maybe one or two of me. And, it's just so important that people of all cultures and races come together in these healing-centered activities and be a part of them together, because oftentimes I stand back from a program that's happening And it takes my breath away sometimes because I'm looking at what I'm seeing that's supposed to be happening organically. People from all the cities, like when we had a conservation cleanup, we had people from Portage, Maryville, Valpo, Michigan City. We want the reach far and wide, but we want the purpose to be open so that the purpose and mission of getting more persons, more diversity, standing back and being able to see, the different people in a group and participating in harmony. That's that purpose, that purpose-driven visual that I see that just makes it all come together and so worth it. No, we're not exclusive. We target specific demographics to come and have these experiences. But no, these experiences are for everybody. Absolutely. And thank you for that question.
Paul here has another question for you.
Hi, Paul.
I'm a high school teacher, but I'm also married to a beautiful Black woman. And so it means I have brown boys and they're beautiful. One thing that their mom is scared of is their son's going out and possibly getting attacked. I mean, because of what's happened in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if you could address that. I mean, I've heard this sort of already talk, but who are your mentors? Who are the ones that help drive you the direction that you want to go? All four of you. And then also, have you connected with Outdoor Afro? Because they were one of our keynotes here 3 years ago.
Yes, I reached out to Outdoor Afro a couple years ago to partner, to try and collab on some things, and I really never heard back. I know that they are in Chicago. I've gone to some of their events in Chicago and supported, but they don't have a representative in Northwest Indiana that I'm aware of, and I never did hear back. Hear back, so I did try to make that connection and that partnership. But Paul, I am a person of by lineage, descent. My mother is Italian, and my dad is Black. And my son, though he's 75% Black, if you want to put a number on it, those are separate challenges in and of themselves, as being a person that is straddling the line at all times of whether or not, you fit here or fit here. Okay, so for myself, Paul, I think, it's a challenging, situation when, like my son, he's very light, and noticeably, of course, Black, a Black boy. He goes to school in Chesterton. We've had a couple incidents. Fear. How do you avoid fear? There's no way to do it. There's no way to do it, Paul. There's been nights I've cried over, the microaggressions that I experience. I'm not, sometimes I'm not Black enough, sometimes I'm not white enough, but at the end of the day, I learned about 15 years ago that I'm going to be me. I'm going to face challenges, whether it be challenges of me not fitting or not being accepted as this or that, or being fat, or being, or being a vegetarian. No matter what the challenge is, there's going to be fear. So I think fear is what we have to overcome and stand confidently in. Teaching your boys that, always be genuine and authentic and being your best you. Fear is going to come and go, but I find that oftentimes, have conversations. Some of my leaders, and Carolyn Finney, I read her book, White Faces, Green Spaces, White Faces, which is actually how my organization, I developed my organization under some of the premises in that book, teaching them about coexisting. It's not always going to be comfortable, and it's not always going to not include fear, but I think tackling it, right there you can't allow that fear to crumble you or cripple you, because I think if I allowed the fear that I have every time I show up as a Black person with a Black eco organization or Black in the outdoors, if I allowed fear to let me crumble, then I wouldn't be here changing other people's lives. So fear is going to be there, Paul, and just forge through and expose them to different experiences, no matter the demographic. Allow them to feel a part, whether, like for me, I look different, I might talk different. When I used to go to Camp Red Mill when I was young, Girl Scout camp, that was all the way in Valparaiso, and here I am, little Black girl from Gary. There are fears, but sometimes we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's the only way that we will overcome fear and progress. Yeah.
Thank you, Kimmie, so much. We appreciate that. We have run out of time, and unfortunately, because we'd love to be able to hear more from all of you, but we do appreciate the panel taking your time to address our audience here. So thank you so much, and they really appreciated it. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, Leslie.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, thank you guys so much for being here to do this together. Libre, Joelle, Jennifer. See you guys soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye now.